Alright, so this is take 1035 of me trying to have a personable and cool intro for a video that I poured way too many hours into. If you're actually listening to this, then that means I put it out, and if anything, that's something worth toasting to, cause I'm not gonna lie to you, this was hanging on by a thread. Yeah, I don't even know when I started putting this thing together. Since the end of 2021, cartoon retrospectives have been flooding my YouTube recommendations, so I figured, hey, I'm gonna give it a try. Oh, and shout out to Taj Talks. He dropped his own video on Stoked a few months ago, and that really revitalized my energy to get this one done. So it'll be linked in the description. Make sure you check out his video if you haven't seen it yet. Now, why Stoked? Some of us American kids in the mid-2000s to early 2010s remember having your mind blown when you found out a lot of your favorite cartoons were imported goods. And you know what I'm talking about, right? Ed, Edd n Eddy, Totally Spies, Martin Mysteries, Code Lyoko, Atomic Betty, the list is long. And yo, keep it a buck though, I loved Atomic Betty. Like, I liked all of those shows, but Atomic Betty was gas. And no list of internationally produced cartoons would be complete without 16, Total Drama, and their long-forgotten step-sibling, Stoked.
Yo dudes, all aboard for Surfers Paradise Resort. Girls that I don't know, what's up?
Rough night?
No doubt.
Alright, first, some backstory. In 2004, the animated comedy 16 was greenlit and produced by Nelvana Enterprises, a Canadian animation studio.
It's girls that are impossible to deal with.
The show focused entirely on teenagers and the common problems teens face, and it did it in a pretty refreshing way. It first aired on Teletoons in Canada, but for us over in the States, we all remember that first season on Nickelodeon. If my memory serves me correctly, this was also around the time Nickelodeon was doing like a Teen Nick revamp. They were doing a whole bunch of Degrassi marathons, and 16 kind of fit right into the vibe.
Hey guys! Paige? New year, new look, new page.
Dance! Nope, just don't do that.
After season 1 aired, the quality of the show was clear and it took off. After spending 2 seasons with Nelvana, creators Jennifer Persh and Tom McGillis opted to take the show and produce it under their own outfit, which became Fresh TV. Fast forward to 2009, and Fresh TV was the hip new production studio on the block. After taking over production of 16 in 2007 and releasing the first season of another hit series, Wink Wink Nudge Nudge, they were on a roll like few others had been on. Both Total Drama and 16 were brainchildren conceived by Jennifer Persh and Tom McGillis. 16 had immediately taken off and both were widely recognized and acclaimed series. From this, the two were able to come up with a new show that stayed within the ballpark of teen and young adult aimed sitcoms. And thus, there was Stoked.
Travels then take us north to Surfers Paradise Resort.
Every summer, throngs and surfers of all ages flock to the resort town to camp or get a job and spend every spare minute in the water.
Hey, hold on. This is my favorite part.
With kilometers of unspoiled beaches, Sunset Beach is a true surfer's paradise.
And I'm going to be there tomorrow.
So Stoked was like about 16s hanging out, working jobs, going on wacky adventures after school in their local mall. Actually, scratch that, my bad. Stoked is about 16s that come together to work at Surfer's Paradise, a resort in a legendary beach in British Columbia, Canada. It's a very similar premise, a kinda similar vibe, and I don't know if it's all the beach bonfires and like the camp-like atmosphere or whatever, or maybe it's just the fact that it's summer, but Stoked has this real heartwarming and uplifting energy to it that it really helps it stand on its own.
Okay guys, this is it.
This is what?
Home sweet home for the summer.
Really? That's it? It's kind of a dump.
Hey, a TV on the porch. Cool.
And couches. Sweet.
cheers for Finn! Yay! Oh, please, you're embarrassing me. I didn't say stop. At least it has beach access.
Emma's the eager beaver who never surfed before this summer. She's super upbeat and positive and the perfect character for us to impart ourselves into the show. Well, at least in the beginning. I love her because she's an awkward mess half of the time, but she's got a strong moral compass.
Don't just stand there. He's going to think you're a total weirdo. I have marshmallows. I have marshmallows?
A lot of episodes feature the kids being lazy, deceitful, or just straight up disrespectful, but Emma's usually the angel on the crew's shoulder. I say usually because there's a good chunk of time where she's the one spearheading the stupid stunts, and it's almost always to get Ty's attention.
Way to go, Squid!
Emma's the squid of the group because she's in love with the culture, but before this summer she's never surfed before. Since she didn't know any better, she commits dozens of surfing faux pas in the first half of the first season, but she eventually learns how to wipe out in peace. As she gets more comfortable and settled in, she gets a few episodes where she's a bit less uptight and is fine with breaking the rules. And matter of fact, sometimes she doesn't even care what the crew are doing. Like, there's so many episodes where she's just wandering around doing her own thing. Bonus points for not having too many "what? Emma's breaking the rules" episodes. The show allows her to be human, and I love that. The order that I have these in is kind of random, but I'ma just trust my notes. Next we have Reef. Reef is the whiny, wannabe player and the resort surf instructor. Reef is your state-of-the-art himbo character. He's crude, sexist, a bit homophobic, and overall pretty obtuse. He's about as annoying as I've ever seen this trope done before. Like, a good chunk of episodes revolve around either punishing Reef for his misogyny or giving him the opportunity to see things from a new light. For example, he's always going on about how girls aren't as good swimmers or they aren't as good surfers, and he's doing it especially to get a rise out of Finn. So in one episode, he enters a surf contest for women and goes along with this whole cross-dressing plan to try and win the tournament and embarrass Finn. Somewhere along the line though, he ends up sympathizing with the female experience and he sticks up for them against the familiarly sexist dude in the crowd. Lesson of the day style. So according to my notes, I've got more on that episode later, so I'm gonna double back to that one in a bit. More times than not though, he's either off chilling with Broseph, hitting on girls with similar sexist remarks, or just trying to hide from Bummer. Reef at times is pretty funny and can be refreshingly chill when he chooses to not be a jerk, but there's a lot of times where I just want to like put hands on him. Broseph. Broseph is their Caribbean friend who seems to be a local to the coast. He literally gives no f***. Bro don't even be working for real. Like I said, there are plenty of scenes where he and Reef are clearly on duty and they're sneaking away to catch some waves or go and bug the girls. It's even worse with Broseph because he just bounces and leaves Johnny to figure it out most of the time. He's super chill, loves to surf, and can sometimes provide a calming perspective for the crew. A lot of his plot lines are based around surfing, and yeah, it's Stoked, of course, there's surfing stuff in it. But no, I mean like the actual act of surfing. There's one where he's surfing in his sleep, there's one where he gets sponsored to surf by a beverage company, and of course there's the one where he loses his surfing mojo. He loves surfing, and low-key, he might be the best out of the group. But as we learn pretty early on, to him, surfing's as much of a spiritual practice as it is a physical one.
Nah, brah. Surf for the thrills, not the bills. One love. I'm out.
And the last thing about Broseph is he's earthy and dirty. He sleeps naked and he doesn't believe in deodorant. So what else do you need to hear? And he be going free willy with the shorts, man. That's wild.
Did anybody say NAACP? No, I gotta do like the, damn, what is straight call. What is it? I might be moving on up. Something like that. There's gonna be a joke here. Watch, there's gonna be a joke here.
Think that's bad? I was up all night listening to Reef write love poetry. He spent 45 minutes working on a rhyme for Wicked Hottie. It was like a nightmare. I couldn't wake up.
Johnny!
Johnny front desk guy. Johnny. He works the front desk, as you can imagine. And he's hopelessly in love with Emma. He's got it bad. He's slightly older than the rest of the gang. I think he's 18 and everyone else is 16. And he's also just as bad of a goody two-shoes as Emma is. Probably even worse. I respect it though. There were a few times where I was watching where I felt like Johnny was the only one not trying to get fired. Out of the main 6, I think Johnny front desk guy gets the least amount of screen time, at least in the beginning. But hey, I'm just glad a show like this has 2 black main characters. There are a few episodes that are focused around pushing him to step out of his comfort zone and partake in Yakubian antics. Now, I might just be soft, but I like that even though he isn't always up for the stupidity, he eventually helps out. And it means just more to me that these are people that he met relatively recently. There's just a hint of energy and a lot of thirst, but it comes from a good place. Now, a good Let's Get Johnny Fired episode is Grom's Gone Wild. Bummer goes on a trip and he leaves Johnny front desk guy in charge of the staff. It's the classic parents are away, so let's go crazy, break everything, but somehow fix everything with the stupid quick cleaning montage before they get home episode. Rick and Morty did it, Fairly Odd Parents, Risky Business, you know the vibes. But here you have the added value of Johnny being too much of a pushover to get them to not wall out. And also the fact that they're wilding in a hotel filled with guests they're supposed to be catering to. They're taking breaks left and right, surfing on the grass, playing with meat, and the whole time Johnny's like,
Yeah, let's go.
But yeah, Johnny's probably the most wholesome character, besides Emma, who can at times be a little dense. So his role on the cast is really appreciated.
Johnny!
And anyone who doesn't like
Rosie, you gotta help me. Finn did all the cleaning and I never learned how to do anything and I can't even get the vacuum to work.
Try plugging it in.
I mean, there's food on the walls and sand in the carpet and... Oh.
Next we have Lo. Lo is the snobby rich girl. She's the daughter of the owner of the resort, and in most cases, it shows. In the first episode of the show, she throws a Project X type party in the penthouse, and she gets in so much trouble that she has to spend the rest of the summer working with the staff.
Oh no. Oh no.
This is the staff house,
Uh-huh.
and you're living here now?
Apparently.
Does that mean that you're, working here too?
Not for long.
Okay, good. In that case, you want to give me a hand? Because all this stuff is really heavy.
And I'm kind of happy they didn't just go the whole London Tipton route with her. She is pretty vapid, but it's not her only character trait. She's actually got a heart of gold, and she's really personable. She's not as goody two-shoes as Emma, and she doesn't come off as strongly as Finn, but she's got a vibe to her that makes you feel like she doesn't care about your problems, but she's willing to listen. I've come to appreciate how confident and chill she is whenever she's not throwing a tantrum, obviously. We often see her dad barking orders at all the employees at the hotel, a vestige of his old military background. And in some episodes, we actually see that same intensity in Lo. And it doesn't stop there. She's also one for coming up with mischievous plans, either as a ploy to get back to her room in the penthouse or just because she can. And I kind of like that about her. At first, I thought it was just because she knows she has the lowest stakes, and it might very well be that. But I think that she's just like that. She's downright reckless sometimes, which makes her the perfect friend to counterbalance Finn and Emma. Lo is the only character of the main 6 that switches jobs throughout the course of the show, and she doesn't do it once, she does it twice. I realize now the reason that she can do that is because the hotel probably wouldn't have that position if it wasn't for her, but it's really cool. She starts off as a waitress, and then she's leading the daycare, and finally she ends up working housekeeping with Finn.
Finally, Finn Masterson. Nah, that's not her name. Finn, I don't remember what her last name was. Finn is the cool. Let me start again.
Next we have Finn. Finn's the cool and confident surfer girl. She's an award-winning surfer, a feminist, and an ultra-competitive person. Her plan was originally to work at the resort as a surf instructor, but due to some unforeseen circumstances, i.e. Reef, she ends up working as a maid. She definitely fills out the role of the quote-unquote cool girl, but instead of her being like the deadpan goth girl,
trust me, that's not a shot at 16.
You've got to be kidding me!
instead of her being the deadpan goth girl, we get the rough and tough as nails, slightly tomboyish character, who honestly surprises me with how emotionally intelligent she is most of the time.
That was awesome.
She's definitely a bit of a fun junkie too. There are a few episodes where she and Lo are scheming or she's caught on to one of Reef's pranks and she's plotting how to flip it on him. It's usually hilarious. She spends a lot of the show doing the whole Helga Pataki act with Reef, but he's constantly dousing her anger with gasoline. It's borderline obsessive at points, and a part of me just wishes she'd admit that she liked him, but then I see Reef and I'm like, alright, I get it. There comes to a point where that's no longer a central storyline, but they still bicker like back and forth cat and dog style. And I don't know, at some points it could be a bit of a drag, but that's kind of who she is. Finn's one of those people that just can't lose an argument and can't let something go. She can be a bit overbearing and honestly a little bit annoying, but on the flip side, you get a person who doesn't take no for an answer. And you get a person who could take over a situation in a second. And honestly, for this group of characters, it's really helpful at times. Okay, side characters. There are a bunch of returning side characters that add a lot of color and contrast to this cast. The most notable sidekicks are the older kids, and at first they seem like they're going to be hating all series long, but they kind of chill out after the first few episodes. Then there are a bunch of guests that we see all the time at the hotel, and it's explained at some point that some people just never check out and spend their entire summer at the resort. And now that I remember, Taj brought it up in his video, but even though Stoked was episodic, a lot of the stuff carried over. So eventually the older kids got tired of picking on the Groms, but they still had their clique. And eventually those terrible white kids' parents decide to actually be parents. Who would have thought? Then there's Mr. Ridgemount, who's effectively the white wizard Kelly. He eventually got more and more hands-on with managing the crew as the season progressed. There's Rosie, who's low-key pretty funny, George and Gromit, these kids, just the dude in the shark suit, Snack Shack, I don't know, those two and like Kahuna, they can kind of sort of be considered main characters. They have a good amount of airtime. But yeah, I don't know, nobody really cares about Snack Shack. Oh yeah, and the fishes. I don't have much to say about them, they're just fishes. And then there's Bummer, their high-strung shift manager from hell.
Yeah, life is unfair, daddy doesn't love me, blah, blah, blah. Here are your name tags. You are required to wear these at all times while on duty. Research shows that guests prefer their housekeepers to look neat and respectable. It makes them feel like you won't actually steal their possessions.
He's like if a Karen mega evolved into Karen the manager. His character gets to develop in a pretty interesting way. He goes from just this power-tripping boss who's a lame in his regular life to a kinda sympathetic and awkward guy who really takes his job seriously.
Bummer! You let our best surfer go to our #1 competitor?
But sir, I
Get Finn McCloud back here, now!
Oh, it's Finn McCloud. There it is.
By the end of the first season, I got this moment of clarity and he stopped feeling like the big bad adult that just doesn't understand the kids. And I thought, well, what do I expect from a guy who manages a bunch of teenagers at a resort all summer long? And I think I realized that at the same time the characters did. Like, he has to be like this. This is the only way that you get teenagers to actually do their job all summer long.
Got your staff evaluation cards from yesterday, and I have one thing to say. Are you all zombies? Did I just accidentally hire the Walking Dead?
Donna!
Bounce that turtle off my beach, or you're fired.
Kitamura,
I thought it was gonna be this totally awesome dream come true. But I was so nervous I thought I was gonna die. Yeah, but when I'm with you, it's whatevs.
Gee, thanks a lot.
I mean, this room's like massive, so why am I sitting so close to you?
So at this point in my life, I can finally say I am tired of the rivals to lovers trope.
I still think that was a really obnoxious thing for you to do.
I think you acted way more obnoxious.
Well, I'm just glad we're broken up.
Not as glad as I am.
Oh, really?
Really?
Like, if you leave this video with nothing else, I just want you to know that that is a tired trope, shipping trope, whatever. And I know a lot of y'all eat this up. And that's not to say I didn't eat this up in my middle school years. We all had that phase. But come on. Reef and Finn spend much of the first half of the first season at each other's neck. And I get it. They spent most of the show at each other's neck. Reef is annoying, and Finn's not slick either. And there were some points where she was just hating on Reef. But after the first few episodes, you could kind of see her tone shift, and it really comes out with Fast Times when the Riptide's high. She shifts to a more flirty one, and I kind of like that way better. In the episode, Reef and Finn are in the middle of arguing over who's a better surfer. I know, blah. But they get caught in a riptide and get pushed out to sea. They try to find the current, but it only leads them to end up on what they think is a deserted island. But come to find out, they're just further down the resort's coastline. In that episode, we get to see Finn and Reef share some vulnerable emotions. The only part I didn't really like is it feels like Finn was the one that really liked Reef, even though she hates all of his sexism and jerkiness, and it's like, come on fam, you can do way better, but hey, I'm not gonna hold that against her. She knows how to push his buttons without getting too feisty, and to be honest, I think the first hints of romance is done pretty well here. I'm not super into shipping if you can't tell, but one of my favorite ways to experience a ship is through the slow burn. And for what it's worth, Stoked has a pretty good tug of war, at least in my eyes. There are runs of episodes where Reef and Finn are together, but they either never get that time to be away from the group, or they're too busy at each other's neck to speak from that same vulnerable position. And Finn can play a little hard to get to. Well, that is until the tables turn.
Girls ask guys out all the time. I'm just a girl and Ty's just a guy. With a totally jacked bod.
The other ship worth noting early on is the strange love triangle going around with Johnny, Emma, and Ty. Tyler is Lo's older brother who spends a good amount of time surfing and just minding his business. Since his parents do own the resort, it makes sense that we see him out and about so much, but it's never for a long time. He has a passion for film, and we often see him surfing and hanging out with the older employees. Emma spends much of the first season fawning over him and bits of the second season, although they kind of drop it. But she never shoots her shot. It's like her awkwardness and her anxiousness just take turns jumping her every time she opens her mouth.
Fight back! Fight back!
For the most part, Tyler is oblivious to Emma, and he drives that home by routinely forgetting her name. So yeah, besides that, Tyler is pretty much a nothing character. I wouldn't say he's cool, but I wouldn't say he's not cool. He's just kind of like older boy, soft-spoken kind of, and I don't know, minds his business. A little pushy though, but hey. So now we have Johnny and Emma. Johnny spends most of the first season doing what Emma did to Ty to Emma. He sits in the corner and he tries to shoot a shot in the most kind and innocent of ways, but it just wasn't happening for him. Emma doesn't see him like that, and I hated watching him go outside like that. It was every episode. After a while, it shifted from, damn, Emma's missing out on a great guy to, alright bro, you gotta wrap this up. Have some self-respect, pack it up, and keep it going, bro.
Shredded.
Wow, you sound so manly.
Really?
Well, you sounded manly.
Johnny, congrats, dude. Your voice finally broke.
That clip is wild. Like, look at how they talk to my mans. So when he finally stood up for himself and he called Emma out for trying to use him as a rebound, I was so proud of my boy. But no, seriously, I was happy it ended, even though I feel like the garlic thing was a bit wild. Like, he didn't even know if she was like seriously allergic or not, but I guess we'll let that slide. I'm not into the whole payback thing in stories or in real life, so that just made me groan a bit. But Emma, on the other hand, was true to character. She was open-minded and still apologetic enough to see how she messed up. And yeah, that plotline could have been dropped so much sooner, but at least it was dropped. So there was also that Emma and Ripper episode, which was really more like a Ripper and Lance episode, if you catch my drift. There was a whole lot of calendaric energy going on, but I'll let you guys be the judge of that. Okay, for this next part, I'm gonna need a drum roll or something, cause this was the surprise of the series for me. Hold up, let me retake that, cause that didn't actually capture how I felt. I had never seen these episodes before this quote-unquote rewatch, so that twist actually got me. It literally comes out of nowhere, but if there's one thing HBO's taught me about being a teenager, it's that relationships just be happening.
And drugs, and guns, and plays, and damn, I really like that season of Euphoria, bruh.
So yeah, did I see this coming? No. But does it make sense? Yeah, kinda. Look, they're both childish, they're both vain, and they're both ridiculously stupid at times. Lo is a great balance of shrill and couldn't care less, which I think is a heavy lifter in their relationship. She only really cares about things that directly involve her, but outside of that, she's just as chill as the rest of the group. I'd even say she's more chill than everyone, because I feel like she's surprisingly not judgmental. Like that episode that Broseph didn't know he had a hearing aid stuck in his hair. Hearing aid, Bluetooth radio, stay with me. Broseph gets it stuck in his hair, and he gets in his Nostradamus bag. He's reading the waves, he's predicting stocks, curing the blind, it's crazy. At first he didn't know where the voice in his head was coming from or what the voice was, but it turns out that the earpiece stuck in his hair was stuck on a news station. That was actually kind of hard to say, wow, I'm not repeating it. So he was just hearing the surfer weather report and listening to this guy. So Lo takes a look in his hair and she sees the earpiece, right? And she tells him that that must be what he's been hearing the whole time. Naturally, Broseph asks her not to tell anyone because...
Say anything about the hearing aid.
Why? Because you're gonna open a Wave psychic hotline and charge crazy dollars for info?
No, because I like the name Wave Whisperer.
Think about the hotline.
And Lo's just like, okay. She uses him to get a pair of flip-flops from Finn, which she wanted at the beginning of the episode, so that's kind of fair game. And after that, she doesn't go much further into it. If it was Emma or Finn, they would have started preaching about the right thing to do and about how this is so unethical. But Lo's only stipulation is, let's try to use this to finesse. It's funny because I think other shows would have had a character like Lo try to guilt trip or blackmail Broseph into using the earpiece to get stuff for her. And don't get me wrong, she kind of did it a little bit with the flip-flops and everything, but I think it's important that the plot didn't go down that route. Because A, she isn't that invested in getting the free stuff, and 2, well, Joseph is actually being exploited by her dad in the hotel. And then there's Reef. As much as he argues with Finn, he still has a basic level of care for her, and for people in general. He's really a lover boy. His nose is wide open with any female attention, and after he and Lo become a thing, that lands him in some uncomfortable situations. And if I don't know if I'm going to say it later on in this review, but let it be known, I hate how much he just like is pining for other girls throughout the season, like throughout the series. It's just, ugh, sometimes. So yeah, there's this one episode that's like the Battle of the Pygmies, and bro, I felt like I wanted to throw up. So the episode is basically about how Finn and Johnny notice how spoiled and bossy Lo is with Reef, so they start plotting on ways to break them up. Mind you, the whole time Finn is just really jealous that Lo is with Reef, and that just made me want to blow up my TV cause she's hating. Now Reef is really down bad. He doesn't know how to be himself in their relationship, but he's in too deep to really voice it. So Finn and Lo end up competing in the Pygmy Olympics, and it's terrible. The only saving grace in this episode is the fact that in the end they realized how stupid fighting over Reef was. I thought it was cool that it didn't end in Lo leaving Reef. It was just like, alright, what are we fighting about? Now, for what it's worth, they really are cute together. I just wish Reef wasn't such a dweeb and Lo wasn't just so spoiled. As conniving as this episode was, you can't tell me that Finn and Lo aren't best friends.
Finish on the left. Aww.
So, do I still get the snack fridge?
Hey, this little block inform me of my fate. This little block gon' warn me I ain't safe.
Alright, so stay with me, but I think what helps Stoked shine is similar to what makes shows like Phineas and Ferb or Recess so distinguishable. And it's their commitment to keeping the series about the fun regardless of the circumstances. I don't know if that's a quantifiable trait, and I'm pretty early in my cartoon analysis career, so it might be hard to sell you on it, but trust me, it's real. You can feel the appreciation these characters have to be where they are for the summer, and you can feel the joy they get from getting to surf and just bond with each other. I remember when this aired on Cartoon Network, and I think the moment it got me actually was in the second episode.
Okay, I have a toast. Maybe our jobs
That bonfire scene made me feel nostalgic for something I had never experienced. It aired in the middle of summer, and it captured that feeling perfectly.
It's seriously gonna be fun. To Surfer's Paradise!
I think Stoked hits a soft spot for me in particular because it's got the right amount of surprises. There's so many moments where I legit hit pause and thought like, damn, I didn't know so-and-so character was like that. The messaging isn't super profound, and there aren't tackling many experiences that you won't be able to relate to. Like 40% of the show's conflicts revolve around surfing and surf culture, then there's another 40% that revolves around conflicts from working at the hotel. And then the last 20% goes to like miscellaneous average 2000s teen drama, crushes, battle of the sexes, you name it. So the characters here are the strength and just the backbone of the entire series. The characters have emotion and agency, and I already mentioned it before, but they grow over the course of the show. You can tell that lessons learned in previous episodes carry over because the way a certain character acts changes ever so slightly. And you can tell that they're cognizant of the thing that happened that relates to this new situation, but it doesn't mean that that's time for the character monologue where they realize that, oh, I have to be a better person or whatever. It's just like, man, I tried that last time and it didn't really work. Maybe I'll try something else. And to me, that lets the characters feel more like a real part of their universe. The relationships between the main six are so pure and secure, it feels like they've known each other from birth. And that's the crazy part, they haven't. They pretty much all just met each other, and throughout the first season you get to see them learn new things about each other all the time. For instance, a nice inclusion in the show is the fact that Johnny can't keep a secret like ever, and neither can Reef. And it's funny because the moment I started to realize that those were consistent characterization for both of them is when the show realized it too. And guess what? From that point on, they make efforts to not tell Johnny and to not tell Reef anything that they don't want spreading around the hotel in like 2 minutes.
You were like working and stuff. Guy, I've dug the creepy cretin since way back. Even had a poster of them. They came to do a secret show and I couldn't tell you guys because...
You totally can't keep a secret.
I guess that explains pretty much everything.
You see, it's simple, and it doesn't involve the characters changing too drastically. It just shows an awareness that these are people who know each other and have experienced each other every day for X amount of weeks.
Reef, it's supposed to be a secret!
And it took me over 10 minutes to blow it.
So when it comes to like characters and character moments, I love the scenes where the girls are hanging out. In the first season, there are a lot, and in the second season too actually, there are a lot of scenes where they're just hanging out in one of the hotel rooms where Emma or Lo are ducked off in a room that Finn's cleaning. There's definitely like the tiniest bit of stakes because Bummer's gonna wild out if they get caught. It's kind of like they were skipping class or dipping out on their lunch break. And those stakes are what really bring out more from these characters in other situations. Like, take the episode Waves of Cheese. So Finn is ticked off that Reef is using pickup lines from an old surf movie, so she makes it her goal to embarrass Reef by having the kahuna aired in the local theater. Trust me, I ain't like it that much either, it was giving TikTok SJW. But in this one, we get a classic chilling in one of the hotel room scenes. So Finn's gloating about getting the drop on Reef, while Emma is teasing her about being jealous of Reef, and then Lo's disrespectful self is running her hands through the guest closet.
I have a brilliant idea.
Lo tries to convince Emma and Finn to steal some dresses with a very low-key 27 Dresses reference, but the two are super skeptical.
Let's try some on.
Be cute guys there. What if she notices they're gone?
She has like 28 dresses.
We'll have them back before she even notices. Okay.
The scene ends up breaking down to them just giggling and trying on dresses. Check this.
What's going on? I heard a ruckus.
A ruckus? I don't know anything about a ruckus.
Is someone else in here?
In here? No, that's just the TV. The guest must have left it on.
Surfers.
See, for scenes like that, I can't say I didn't feel that. The love, the camaraderie, the youthfulness. It's those good times you spent doing dumb stuff with your friends.
Okay, I admit
And it continues on in this one. When the girls found out the dresses belonged to Reef's date, Blair, they rush back to the hotel to return the dresses that Blair definitely knows are hers before they get in trouble. It feels like there's a Cinderella reference in there somewhere. I don't know, man, but I love it. Halfway through the show, they start hanging out at the staff dorms a lot more, and it's a cool inclusion. I think if there's anything that made me perk up when watching this show, it was any scene that had all three of them just chopping it up.
Okay, I really have to go.
You're sure about the dress?
Yes, you guys are so bad.
If there's one thing I've learned through this rewatch of this series, I love shows that know what they are and take full advantage of it. Stoked is a teen sitcom, so naturally there's a comedic value in virtually all of the scenes they find themselves in. And honestly, a lot of the story beats in the series are almost laughably common narrative tropes. But what they are able to do is take advantage of the uncommon location that is this beach resort, and add that with the dynamic and relatable ways that the characters play off of each other.
Feel the love.
What if Bummer doesn't go for it?
He'd better, or we could say au revoir to a bummer-free summer. Emma, careful!
What? I didn't drop anything.
You... really? For real? Wow, that's weird.
Now I could be wrong, and I'm not going back to watch it and find out, but I noticed in the second season, the story shifts from the normal A-plot, B-plot setup to this kind of round-robin type approach where the episode checks in on all 6 of the main group. So in one episode, there can be anywhere from like 3 to 4 different plot lines. It's on full display in the Total Drama series, and I think it works at times here, but I'm gonna be honest, I think this show is at its best with slower pacing. When there's an Emma has a pimple subplot or a Wipeout's feeling left out subplot, it doesn't really add anything to the story going on, and it kind of just leaves the episode feeling like cluttered. Like in the episode, I like beaver butts and I cannot lie. Listen to this. The episode starts off with a surf competition between Reef and Finn. Broseph's there too, but he's just trying to surf, he's not in their situation. Whenever these two share more than 2 exchanges, they're already going to be at each other's necks, so... The boys bail in the competition though when Johnny shows up to the beach with some fresh beaver tails. Beaver tails are some kind of like fried confection. It's Canada stuff. I think someone says it's like a donut. I don't know.
That's no donut, dude. It's a beaver tail. So delicious, who cares if it's nutritious?
Delicious indeed.
Tails have been their go-to junk food, so naturally they're chomping them down, and judging by the title, I thought I knew where this one was going.
That's real gay. I'm gonna do that twice.
Nah, I don't know about doing this part twice.
Bro, I need this to be super gay. For the views.
Oh.
Yeah.
Alright, maybe not that. Bummer eating them lines up with what I expected. The hotel is going to open up its own beaver tail stand, and Reef and Broseph are about to get in their good burger bag. Simple. So now, what's the B plot? Well, since Reef is going to spend all his time perfecting his secret sauce in the kitchen, the hotel is in need of a surf instructor. So who's the next best option? Finn, of course. It's kind of wild that Bummer would prioritize a surf instructor over housekeeping, but it's called Surfer's Paradise, so yeah, I guess. Finn ends up feeling something's up with the whole Reef and Broseph situation, so she starts snooping around and spying on them. Nothing too surprising here. And Lo's supposed to be helping with housekeeping anyways, right? But nah, you know what she's doing, right? She's being problematic and leading the C-plot. She's apparently been inside for too long and people are starting to see that she's actually a white girl, so Lo buys this Fugazi bronzer to help cover her insecurities and her lack of a tan. But I guess the bronzer ends up looking orange after it sets for a bit, and yeah, she's gone full Asian orange. Alright, so I'm editing this right now and this looks crazy. Like, just looking back, how did this even air? Like, if Twitter gets to this, they're gonna have a field day. So she spends the rest of the episode sneaking around like she's hooked on chronic using this terrible tanning oil. Emma gets wrapped into the subplot somehow. She ends up hosting an intervention for Lo. It was pretty funny, I'm not gonna lie. But then there's like this little tiny D plot that there's this D plot that has Johnny doing I don't know what, but he's here. So Johnny finds out Reef and Broseph have been selling stepped on tails from out the dumpster, and we already know that Johnny can't keep a secret, so he sits in the background trying to figure out if he should snitch or not. So yeah, there's 4 different stories going on here, and of course a bunch of them are related to one another, so you can kind of look at it as 3 connected plots and 1 B plot. But it still feels jarring when they cut to another person's perspective every 45 seconds. It's a slight change and it just bugged me a little bit. And that's not to say that those episodes were bad episodes. I think Stoked is super consistent on an episode to episode basis. And there are some episodes that I felt that the pacing was perfect. Like there's some times where everything's clicking and the multiple storylines intertwine perfectly. It's like a great sitcom. Like Broseph can go and surf with Finn at 5 AM, have a cool personable conversation with her, spit games to some girls with Reef, side note, Reef is a dog bro, to then go LARPing with Johnny in Snack Shack, and then go back to have another conversation with Finn and Lo that's relevant and impactful to the problem that Finn and Lo are having. And this is like an actual episode. And the best part about it is that he has nothing to do with the A or the B plot in this specific episode. He's just having a normal day. Alright, so my favorite episode of Stoked is Endless Bummer. For me, it's probably the best A and B plot pairing in the series, and it's definitely the best Bummer episode. It wasn't until after this that I realized that I put Bummer into the same boat with like Mr. Crocker. I never took the time to say who is this character and like try to understand what their experience might have been. Like I was watching a video the other day and it was just like, yo, Mr. Crocker was right, bro. Now, I make a distinction between Mr. Crocker and Bummer because Mr. Crocker was a character that, at least from my perspective, was made for us to laugh at. Going from his patented outbursts to his grim demeanor all the way to the close but no cigar situations with fairies literally right underneath his nose, he was kind of like the jester character. Bummer, on the other hand, I feel like it's almost hard to laugh at him sometimes. Like, it's not really funny. I find myself actually frustrated with some of the kids that he works with. As the sole manager of a huge resort like this, it's a stressful position. You gotta deal with people like this.
The brochure says always sunny, but there were 9 minutes of clouds yesterday.
Oh, I'm afraid the weather is not in the guarantee, sir.
What?
So in this one, the stress was getting to him. So the episode begins with Bummer having to deal with all the ridiculous requests from the guests, ridiculous orders from Mr. Ridgemount, and then just to top it off, he has to try and wrangle these kids that literally do not care about anything he's got going on. And not only do they not care, they're actively trying to get this man to have a heart attack. So yeah, Bummer breaks down and it's pretty sad to watch. Like, I feel him. Have you tried to talk to teenagers? Like, imagine having to work with them. I'd be punching air just watching Euphoria. I couldn't handle working at Surfer's Paradise. So seeing this man break down makes the Groms feel bad and they decide to teach him how to relax. Effectively, they turn Bummer into a Grom. And effectively, he gets himself fired and Reef, Finn, and Broseph have to figure out how to get his job back. It might not be the most ingenious turn a show like this could make, and comment down below if they had an episode where they turned like Mr. Mosby into the cool manager or something. But yeah, I think it's important to remember that Andrew Baumer is a person, man. He wakes up every day to work what's essentially a service industry job, and juggles entitled customers and Grom antics all summer long while the guests and the Groms view this as their home away from home. He takes his job seriously, and he does it with a little too much pride, but I understand it. he has to be this bossy to keep the ship afloat, and without him, it all falls apart. I'm glad that even though he might have taken it too far, he got to take it easy and live like a kid again. In the end, of course, Bummer gets his job back, but there's this newfound respect between him and the Groms. So, now that I've finished the recap, I think I should at least talk about some of the weaknesses the show had for me. There are a few moments of, I don't know, intolerant 2010s humor, just jokes made in poor taste. There are some moments where there's a bit of homophobia, a bit of transphobia, sexism here and there, and there's even this weirdly bad joke about stress management.
Oh, this morning he gave me a strike just for yawning.
What's that thing he's squeezing?
Stress ball. Helps you relax when you're frustrated. My ex-girlfriend had one.
Right.
One of the most egregious culprits is the Mr. Rahini episode. I told you I was coming back to it. Reef decides to dress up as a girl to enter a women's only surf competition. And yeah, I'm glad we finally left cross-dressing episodes to die on a cartoon studio's cutting room floor. I feel like there aren't that many shows that address the nuances of it, and they just kind of use it as a way to poke fun at people who like to cross-dress. I can't speak for those in the cross-dressing community or the queer community at large, but I think I can fairly say I'm uninterested in watching an episode where the entire premise is, haha, dude's wearing a dress. And you know what I especially dislike? It's when cartoons or any show tries to take this literally obtuse man and have him learn to view and treat women equally by walking a mile in their shoes.
Like, yeah, I'm a sexist, misogynistic, man-spreading pig, but walking down the street in these heels made me not want to catcall you.
Like, where does that work at, bruh? And then they end the episode like this.
The nerve of those guys talking to us like that just because we're women? Did I just say that? Yes! Yes, I did! We may not have the upper body strength of you guys. Hey! Why did you take my award?
Because you'll need your hands to cover yourself, dude.
I don't know, man. I kind of just finished watching Tuca and Birdie, so I'm just ready to crucify men. It's so... ugh. So yeah, sometimes the jokes just don't hit. The episode Boards of Glory kind of gets a similar response of ugh for me, but I like this one a little bit more. In this episode, Reef and Broseph are competing in a tandem surf competition. Yes, I know, another surf competition. Relax, it's not that bad. And the episode revolves around them learning the moves that they need to beat Captain Ron. I like this one better because although there was a lot of pausable moments, the episode wasn't about Reef and Broseph dismantling their homophobia. The focus was actually on them practicing, and the gay jokes took a backseat. I guess some of these episodes were just a symptom of the times of when the show was running, and I don't really think that they completely ruined the experience of watching them, but I felt like I just had to say something because watching the show, I was really uncomfortable. And not in an overtly offended way, just in a why, I wish this wasn't here. And honestly, it's just lazy writing. It doesn't add anything to the show. Okay, closing notes. There are a bunch of notes I made throughout the rewatch that I don't really want to get too far into, but I figured I'd just say them here. I think the series starts off really well with the first two episodes. Matter of fact, some of my favorite episodes are from the first half of that first season. Now, don't kill me, but I felt like the show kind of dragged in the middle of season 1. It picks up right after that though. I couldn't find anything online about it, but the last 4 or 5 episodes of the second season kind of feel like they were produced separately from the rest of the show. There are a bunch of new sets and background designs and even character designs, like a lot of new designs. Like look, this one don't even look like it's from the same show. I don't know if I said this before, but the last 3 episodes of season 1 never aired on Cartoon Network. So this was the first time I was able to watch them, and even in those there were a few more Canadian references. So I thought that was cool. Now, why did I start this? Why did I do this? Why did I put this gargantuan task on my table? I started this rewatch because I guess it's been on my mind. I was on the hunt for a new job, and if you've been through the interviewing process, it can really fill you with existential dread. So I turned to find a comfort show. My first thought was Adventure Time, and that's one of my favorite series of all time, but I don't know, I didn't feel like getting back into that just yet. It was mid-October 2021, and I thought, I just want to watch something fun. Something that reminds me of what it feels like to be filled with happiness and forget the pressures of like real life. Summer was over at that point, and I found myself wishing that I had a little more time, and it was kind of like a light bulb moment. I remember watching this show air weekly with my younger sister back in like middle school, and I knew I wanted to rewatch it because I remembered literally nothing. After I started the rewatch, it took me another month or two to decide to actually do this video. After like 3 or 4 months of job hunting, I got an offer and I was giving a start day in January of the new year, and I knew myself, so I was like, hey, I don't want my brain to try and pack too much stuff into these 8 weeks before I start, so I waited a little bit. But as I was rewatching it, I was like, you know what, screw it, I'll just start now. Rewatching it was just what I needed though. And I can even say after rewatching it, that whole second season was new to me, and it did more than I thought the show would attempt. The characters felt real, and it felt like I really knew them, like I'm there with them. And after the last 2 years of limited social contact, it really resonated with me. If you haven't seen Stoked, give it a shot. It used to be on Netflix, and I think it was on Hulu at one point, but finding the show legally is a task. But if you're a fellow pirate, you can watch every episode on YouTube if you'd like. It's a really fun and refreshing watch that may take your mind off of all your day-to-day stressors. Oh yeah, and the music's great too.
You totally rock my world, baby.
Oh, brother. Then put some pants on.
It's natural, the way we were born. Johnny, eyes up.
But I didn't. I wasn't.